Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to talk about 5 YA fantasy books that I highly recommend. And the reason I wanted to do this today is because I don't like a lot of YA fantasy, but there is still some YA fantasy out there that I really, really love. I thought that today I would just go over those 5 books, and perhaps it will help you if you also don't love a lot of YA for whatever reason. Maybe you haven't heard of these books. I know some of them are really popular, but some of them are not as popular. And I think that these are just 5 YA books that really showcase ways that I think YA can be for everyone. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Also, I should say these are in no particular order of like how I like them. It's just how I thought of them when I was making the list. The first YA fantasy book I'm going to talk about is To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Blackgoose, which I do not own a copy of yet, and that is a shame. I could have swore I bought myself a copy, and I don't think I did. I think I thought about it and then never pulled the trigger. So pretend I have the book. But this is an Indigenous story at heart. It is about a young girl named Anacus who lives on this like island with her family, and one day she finds a dragon egg and it hatches, and so she just has this hatchling with her, and they bond, and the colony, like the mainland colony, finds out about it, and there's all these rules and stipulations around dragon riders and how they are allowed in society. So basically she has to go to this dragon school where she's going to learn to shape her dragon's breath, aka help her and her dragon learn how to work together so the dragon can be like tamed and behave according to the rules of this like colony. And I think it's like also kind of a military thing where like you have to be in the military if you bond to a dragon. So it kind of is also like teaching her that. But the thing that I love the most about this book is that Anacus does not go to this white people school basically and assimilate. They try really, really hardly to force her into the mold that they think she should be, like in this colonizer school. And she is true to herself and stays true to herself at every turn, at every chance she gets to like do what they tell her to do. She does it, but in a way true to herself, in a way that is like rooted in her, who she is as a person, which is heavily influenced obviously by her culture and where she came from, the island with all of the indigenous family that she has. And there is one other kid at the school who I believe is half white and half indigenous, and he is at the school and he was orphaned at some point, I believe, or was like a ward of the state or something. Anyways, I don't know, but he is a great side character, and I believe that he has autism, but he is a cinnamoroll. Anyways, but I think that this book is just a really great demonstration of a dragon fantasy. I think the like aspect of the colonizers kind of being in control of these magical creatures, and if you get one, like you have to like submit to their rules. Like I feel like that's so interesting, and I love that we get to see it from an indigenous person's perspective because she was there before them on this land. Like they're at the mainland colony, and I think her brother works for them or works near there. Like he had left home, and he like kind of like assimilated with the white people, but she was like, no, like that's not something I ever wanted to do. But now because of the dragon, like legally she has to, but she is like, okay, I'll come to your school and I'll play by your rules, but I'm gonna do it my own way. And like she's just such a spitfire. She's so confident. I think like she's also really kind. She's really kind to a lot of people who are like maybe don't deserve her kindness, but I think that she's not like getting taken advantage of. She's kind like in spite of them. And I just think that she's such a good main character. And even though this is YA, like there is some autism rep in one of the side characters. The main character is also bisexual, I believe. And I do believe near the end there was like a hint of polyamory. Like it's the couple didn't like the couple, is it's not a couple when it's poly, right? I guess throuple, because there are 3 people involved. The throuple didn't like officially like become a thing, but there were like threads, like the beginning threads of this polyamorous relationship were kind of presented to us, and I don't know if it will continue in the second one. I actually really want to reread this before I read the second one because it has been over a year, I think, since I've read To Shape a Dragon's Breath, and I have an arc of the second one, but it is already out now. This is the kind of way I really like, when the themes are like, you know, the themes are important. The themes relate to our society, but with a fantasy twist. Like, I just love that so much. And it is a fantasy world, but it kind of has a Victorian time frame. Is that right? I don't know. It's not really Victorian. Maybe like Edwardian. Is that a thing? Did I make that up? I don't know. I need help. History is not my strong suit. But it is like a modernish, like it's not like medieval, but it's not modern. It's like in the middle. It's like Edwardian or Victorian. Like there's like, you know, do you know what I'm saying? I'm talking to myself in circles. But To Shape a Dragon's Breath is a great YA fantasy, and I also think it's a great place to start if you're new to fantasy, because it is in that middle ground. It's not medieval and it's not modern, but it's just modern enough that it's easier to like suspend your disbelief and kind of like see the magical side of things. And it's really fun. I loved it. Also, the audiobook is really good, which is funny because I listened to the audiobook, and for the first like 3 chapters, the narrator was getting on my last nerve, but then all of a sudden it just like clicked, and I was like, oh wait, this is actually really good. So I do recommend the audiobook if you are an audiobook preferer. And of course, how could I talk about YA books without talking about one of my favorite books of all time, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is the story of Laszlo Strange. He is an orphan who has grown up in this library, and he is just a dreamer. Like, he is in love with the idea of a fictional story. He's also obsessed with this place called Wheat, which used to have a different name. It used to go by a different name, but one day the name to this place was completely lost to everybody. There's a scene in here where he's like remembering the moment when the name slipped from his memory, and it happened to everyone everywhere all at once. And so they just call it Weep now, and it's kind of like his Atlantis, right? Like, he is convinced this place is real. It was this legendary place. Like, people just think it was like, you know, mythical, it was made up, but he is convinced it's real. Anyways, this book is about him getting to go on an adventure. There are a lot of characters in here with such depth and nuance. We also follow another POV in here, but I don't want to spoil anything in here for you. But there are a lot of characters in here who have suffered trauma. There is a lot of nuance. There is one character in here that I believe is like really representative of PTSD specifically. And she is like not a great character, but on purpose. And I think that her character just it really showcases how trauma can affect people and stunt their growth mentally, and just keep them stuck in this like rut of a place. The writing is flowery, the words are beautiful, the world is beautiful, the characters are amazing. There is also a little bit of romance in here, and I think it's a really sweet romance. It's also a little tragic. Like, this book is whimsical and beautiful, but it's also really sad. Like, I cry so much reading this book, and I just think it has beautiful quotes. I'm going to read a quote to you, one of my favorites, and if this doesn't convince you to read this book, I don't know what will. Okay, the quote is on page 135 in my paperback copy. And that's how you go on. You lay laughter over the dark parts. The more dark parts, the more you have to laugh. With defiance, with abandon, with hysteria, any way you can. And that basically is about how laughter is the best medicine. But instead of just saying laughter is the best medicine, you know, she really just gave us that beautiful quote. There's so much in here that is like iconic, like this line, "It was impossible, of course, but when did that ever stop any dreamer from dreaming?" Or this one, "You're a storyteller. Dream up something wild and improbable," she pleaded. "Something beautiful and full of monsters." Beautiful and full of monsters? All the best stories are. Literally the best book. My favorite book. I love it so much. It's gorgeous. I want to reread it really badly. Every time I talk about this book, I say I want to reread it, and then I don't do it. I should just let myself reread it. You know, like Agatha from Halloween Town, she says magic is really very simple. You just have to want something and let yourself have it. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to reread this soon. The next book I want to recommend is kind of a series. I'm not going to talk about the entire series, but I am recommending the entire series, and that is the Wayward Children series by Shauna Maguire. The first book being Every Heart a Doorway, and this is a portal fantasy, and the overall premise of the entire series is that there's a school called Eleanor West's School for Wayward Children, I believe. And so in this world, it's our world, but not our world. In this version of the world, magical doors will appear to other worlds, and these worlds are fantastical. These worlds are like morbid, scary, like underwater, in the sky, like all imagine, like whatever world you could ever concoct in your brain, these worlds exist, and these doors will appear, and children will find them when they need them most. Children who feel like they don't belong in our world, who either have parents who want them to change and be a different way, or, you know, have parents who hate them, or kids who don't have any parents at all, or kids who just feel like outsiders, like, or who feel like strangers in their own body even, will find these doors and go to these worlds and live a happier life, or live not even happier, but just a life that was more suited to who they are at their core, even if that is a life with hardships in it. And I just think that this series has something for everyone. Every book is so different. There is kind of a pattern where there's like a book at the school, which is this first one, and then the next book is a book in one of the worlds, and then it's a book at the school, a book following a character who goes to one of their worlds, a book at the school, a book following a character who goes to their world. And I just think it's so beautiful. So many of these books have made me cry. So many of them. These books are meant for the people who grew up and felt different. These books are meant for the people who like maybe got bullied in school and you feel like you didn't belong, or who had parents who put too high of expectations on you to be a certain way or grow up and have a certain career. I really think that this book is for anyone who ever felt like unwanted or unloved or unsure of themselves or alien in their own skin. There is queer representation, non-binary, trans rep in here. There is also ace rep. There's even intersex rep in one of the books, and it's just like I said, it's just something for everyone. They're very popular, so you've probably heard of it. But if not, this is literally like a YA series. Like, I think this series overall is so fantastic. I've given all of them either 4.25, 4.5, 4.75, or 5 stars. So I highly recommend checking out this series. You don't really need to read it in order. The only thing I will say is that you need to read this book before you read the second one, which is Down Among the Sticks and Bones, because it will kind of spoil. There's like a sort of mystery in here, a murder mystery in here. Those are the only two I would suggest reading in order, is read book number 1 before you read book number 2. But otherwise, like, you could pick up any of them really as a standalone, I think, and it would make sense. You would be missing a lot of the backstory if you didn't read it chronologically, but like if you don't want to read the whole series and there's one book in particular that appeals to you, I would say you could still go for it, because they're all amazing, and they are technically all contained stories, even though it is like a series. Does that make sense? I'm probably explaining that poorly, but there you are. The last book I'm going to officially recommend is The Solstice Court by Jade Juniper. This book was written by a good friend of mine, and I think this is a great YA book. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of nuance in here. So in this book, we follow Kezra, who's our main character, and she is the princess of Alastor, and her soul has been reincarnated through her family line like hundreds of times. And it's a great weight placed on her because she's supposed to be like the ruler of this kingdom. She's supposed to be this like leader and savior of her people. And she is struggling because she has come to an age where she's supposed to have developed her magic, and her magic isn't presenting itself. So there's a lot of expectation on her. There's a lot of responsibility being placed on her. And she's just really struggling with like finding her footing, trying to be like her unique self while people are expecting her to be, you know, the same as all the other reincarnations of her soul. And I think something Jade does phenomenally is character relationships. And in here, there is a very strong theme of like a narcissistic parent, like just how it feels to live in that situation, how it feels to be the receiver of like gaslighting and manipulation. In this book, there is a character who is so vile. I get physically like uncomfortable reading scenes about this person, and that's because Jade has made them literally so narcissistic that it just reminds me of my mother. And I read about this character and then I'm like, I get so angry. Like, it is so well done. There is so much nuance, and the ways that this character presents their manipulation is so like sophisticated. It's disgusting. Like, I'm like, how dare this character be that smart in their manipulation? How like dare this character be so viscerally like a piece of shit? For lack of a better word. I think that that is one thing that like Jade does literally impeccably, like so good. I get so angry. Literally, I get so mad reading about this character. And Kezra is also just like a really naive princess, and that's not really her own fault. She's very sheltered, and like she really wants to go on an adventure and she wants to experience life and live life, but she's just not allowed to. And she's supposed to grow up to be this monarch who keeps the peace, and that's very hard for her right now to imagine having to do, because there is actually a war. There's 3 kingdoms in this continent, I believe, and it's called the Thrice Kingdom, and it's Elastor, which is Kezra's kingdom, and then there's Zenkesh and Allura. And so Kezra is supposed to grow up and keep these kingdoms in a peace treaty, and she it can't and keep her kingdom basically out of the drama. And so she's trying to grapple with like, how do I be neutral? How am I truly going to be a neutral presence with these 2 kingdoms outside her doors beefing with each other? And yeah, so it's really got a lot of political tension, a lot of family tension. There is a lot of that, again, narcissistic gaslighting situation. And I just think like those themes are so well brought to life in here. Also, another part of this book that really intrigues me and made me fall in love with it was the magic systems. So there are 3 kingdoms, and each kingdom has their own magic system. I won't tell you much about those because I think half of the fun is seeing it unfold for yourself. But I do think that there is a really unique twist on some of the magic in here. And I just think that Jade has really like fresh ideas. Obviously there are some tropes that have been done before. Of course, tropes are tropes. They're going to happen. But there are some really fresh ideas in here. So I think that if you really like political fantasy, if you like cozy vibes, but still with a lot of, stakes and tension, this would be a great book for you to pick up. So those are the 5 YA fantasy books I'm going to recommend you today. If you have read any of these and you know of books that are similar and you think I would enjoy them, please feel free to leave those in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching. As always, if you've made it this far, leave a sword emoji down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!